What's up, everyone? And today I'm bringing a deck profile on my Valkyries. Now, Valkyries is a very interesting deck that highlights a card to where you can basically skip your opponent's turn. Yeah, I'm not kidding. There's a card that actually does that. And it's not that hard to use either. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. First, I run 3 Valkyrie Seagrun. Seagrun is really cool. First off, if it's in your hand, you can target one face-up spell trap you control, send to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon this card. And if it's normal special summoned, you can special summon one level 8 or lower Valkyrie monster from your hand or graveyard. So this is definitely very good, sometimes one of your starters. Although the way this deck works, you can special summon monsters from the hand very easily. And obviously, being able to special summon a monster from your hand or graveyard is definitely really good. Because you may send a Valkyrie to the graveyard for a cost for a certain card, something like that. Also run 1 Valkyrie Brunhild. Now, the effect of Brunhild doesn't really matter too much because it's not really that great of an effect. Anyways, you more or less just want this as another Valkyrie name with a decent attack. Mainly because of how Rite of the Valkyries and the Mischief of the Time Goddess work. I run the 1 Urda. Urda makes it to where all face-up monsters your opponent controls lose 1,000 attack. Any card destroyed by battle with this card would be sent to the graveyard as banished instead. So this is definitely really good. And when you activate your Rite of the Valkyries, Urda is definitely a card you're going to want to have on the field. Firstly, it lowers your opponent's monster's attack, so you can do more damage twice. And also, obviously, the banishing effect will definitely come into play greatly. Considering with the effect of the final light to special summon monsters from your graveyard, also allows your opponent to special summon monsters from their graveyard as well. If we use Urda to, instead of destroying those monsters by battle, you can banish them. So, they're going to be limited on what they can summon from the grave. Oh, and I do also want to mention that this is a going second deck. I tried building it going first, and you're not going to be able to do anything. There's just no way around it. Rite of the Valkyries is nice, but during the end phase returns all the cards back to the hand. And it's not just all Valkyrie cards, it's all cards you control. So you can't just summon 4, go for an Apollosa, and pass. So unfortunately, you gotta play this going second. Also run 1 Erst. If Erst is special summoned by a spell effect, you target 1 Mischief of the Time Goddess in your graveyard, add it to your hand. And if you control a Valkyrie monster other than Erst, quick effect, banish one other monster from your opponent's graveyard. Then this card's attack becomes equal to that banished monster's original attack. Again, just like Urda, it helps with the downside to Final Light. Because Final Light is great. You know, pay 1,000 life points, special summon Valkyrie monsters from your grave equal to the number paid. So, like, let's say you have 4 in grave, pay 4,000 life points, summon 4 from grave. You know, like Soul Charge. Final Light is basically Soul Charge, just giving your opponent a Soul Charge as well. So, with Erst and Urda, you can basically kind of limit it to where it's more of a Soul Charge for you and not so much for your opponent. I run 3 Valkyrie Drite. Drite, whenever it's normal special summon, you can add 1 Valkyrie card from your deck to your hand, except Drite, which is definitely really good. And once per turn, it gains 200 attack for each of your opponent's banished monsters. Urda and Erst's effect will power up Drite. Not a whole lot. It may boost it maybe up by like 600 or something like that. But you mainly want it for the summon effect. Also run 3 Valkyrie Shest. I think it's Shesti, whatever. If it's special summon, you can special summon 1 Valkyrie monster from your deck, except Shest. And during the main phase, you can send the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck to the graveyard. Now, against some decks, that's going to be a pretty good effect. But against decks that use their graveyard a lot, it's not. Thankfully, that's not mandatory. But the special summon effect is definitely really good. Essentially, if you special summon, then you can special summon, let's say, the Erst, and then you can trigger Erst effect. Or you can summon the Seagrun. Overall, it's just very good. Also run 2 Valkyrie Virt. Now Virt, or unless it's Virt, I don't know. During the main phase, you can activate the top card. You can activate the top cards of your deck equal to the number of other Valkyrie monsters you control. And if you do, add 1 activated normal spell trap from your deck to your hand. Or add 1 of the activated normal spell trap to your hand. Also, send the remaining cards to the graveyard. Now, the cool additional things is if you don't reveal 1, they all go back to the deck. So it's not like you can reveal, pick 1, otherwise the rest go to the graveyard or something like that. And when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Valkyrie monster from your deck. So all around, just a very solid card. And with Vert, most of the time you're going to have at least 2 to 3 other Valkyrie monsters on the field, because getting Valkyrie monsters on the field isn't exactly too hard, thanks to Ride of the Valkyries. Also run 2 is white. It's white when it is summoned, you can target monster your opponent controls, destroy it, which is definitely really cool. And if this card battled, you can target one continuous spell trap in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Now, that effect is cool and all, but it's not really going to come up too much because we only run 1 continuous spell trap. Next, I run 3 Nibiru. We're going second. So we definitely want to get rid of all those annoying floodgate monsters or monsters with a whole bunch of negates. Like, let's say you're going against Tyr, for example. And let's say they end on a board of the that one Time Thief card. I think it's Time Thief Redoer, Rikalos, and some other monsters. You can just use this to essentially get rid of it. While yes, it does leave your opponent a pretty big token, which the one downside of the card, with this deck we're able to get rid of it. So, like, another option is Lava Golem 2, of course. It really just kind of depends on what you want to go. Neither's wrong, really. Moving on to the spells, I run 3 Ride of the Valkyries. There's one thing that I do not understand with this card. Why is it $10? Like, this card hasn't seen play in like forever, yet it's still expensive. I never really got that. But anyways, Ride of the Valkyries is such an insane card. With this, you can essentially special summon as many Valkyrie monsters from your hand to your field as possible, or like any number. So this definitely helps with getting all of your Valkyrie cards to the field. Now, it does have a downside during the end phase that all cards you control, or not all cards, all monsters you control, return to the deck during the end phase. However, thanks to Mischief of the Time Goddess, that downside is completely gone. Because Ride of the Valkyries, when it's in the graveyard, you can banish it to add Mischief of the Time Goddess to your hand. Now, Mischief of the Time Goddess is insane. Neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation, and it cannot be activated as a Chain Link 2 or higher. At the end of your battle phase, if all monsters you control are Valkyrie monsters, send this card to the graveyard. Also, immediately after this effect resolves, skip to the start of your next battle phase. So yeah, you skip your opponent's turn. And I did have to look this up because I really wondered, does it basically negate the Ride of the Valkyries effect to return the monsters? And yes, it does, because technically you don't go to main phase 2. You just go straight to your battle phase. So like, that never even happens. And so that's definitely really cool. So like, what you want to do is with Ride of the Valkyries on turn 2, because you're going second, summon a bunch of Valkyries. Like, let's say you summon 4. Effect of Ride of the Valkyries, banish it to add a Mischief Time Goddess. Battle phase, attack with all your monsters. If you had like a Urgeki, Dark Hole, or something like that, and your opponent doesn't have a lot of monsters, then you're just going to attack for a good amount of damage. Then use this effect, skip to your next battle phase, attack again, and if that's not enough, you can just go into an Apollosa, negate all your monsters' effects on turn, I don't know which turn it'd be, 3, 4, 5. It's really kind of hard to tell what's Mischief. But essentially, if you see Ride of the Valkyries, you're in a very great spot already. Also run 2 Final Lights. As I said before, it's soul charts. Pay life points in multiple of 1,000 target Valkyrie monsters in your graveyard with different names for every 1,000 life points paid. Special summon them. So if you have 5, pay 5,000 life points and you can summon 5. The downside is that then your opponent can special summon monsters with 2,000 or less attack from their graveyard, up to the number of monsters you special summon by this effect. So it's like a soul charge for both players. Thankfully, Urda and Urs can kind of fix that somewhat, so you can at least get rid of all the cards that are going to play on your turn. So like, let's say you're playing Tier Limits, for example. You can use the Urda and Urs to get rid of to banish the Tier Limit monsters, so all that's left is maybe like the Shizu cards and stuff like that. Stuff that really isn't going to do much if they summon it. Also play 1 Monster Reborn, which is definitely a very solid card to have. Also play the 3 Valhalla, Hall of the Fallen. Honestly, this is pretty much the only deck to where I'd rather run Valhalla over the Celestial Transformation. Because Transformation doesn't require you to have no monsters on the field to activate it. So personally, I'd say Celestial Transformation is better. But in this specific deck, Valhalla is better. Considering Valhalla works with Seagrin. So let's say you have a Valhalla in the field, you can use this effect to summon a Valkyrie, then you can use Seagrin's effect to send Valhalla to the grave to special summon Seagrin from your hand. So it works in tandem with Seagrin, unlike Celestial Transformation. Also run 3 Pause Prosperity. We really don't summon from the extra deck that much. At most, we may summon like 4 monsters from the extra deck, maybe 5, but that's just either going into Apollosa or linking up into Access Code for game. Also run 3 Raigeki and 3 Dark Hole. Now, yes, this can help tier elements because tier elements enjoy being destroyed by battle. Or not by battle, but being destroyed by card effects. So like, if you want to play something like Lava Golem instead of like Raigeki, that's also an option. But against any other deck, Raigeki and Dark Hole is going to be your best option. Because if you completely clear your opponent's field, then Rite of the Valkyries and the Mistress of the Time Goddess is basically going to do enough damage to probably kill your opponent. If not, at the very least, lower them quite a bit. Next, I run the 1/1-for-1. Since Shest is a level 1, and again, it's an effect on spell summoning, that's definitely really good. So that 1/1 turns maybe no monsters into 2 to 3 monsters, because whenever Shest is special summoned, you can special summon a Valkyrie monster from your graveyard. Also run the 1 Reasoning, considering they're all different levels. Like we got a level 1, 5, 4, 3, 9, 8. Like for them to actually hit on Reasoning is going to be very, very low. And it doesn't really matter. Like the only thing we don't want to happen is get Mischief of the Time Goddess sent to the graveyard. Everything else isn't going to matter. I also really want to Call by the Grave because if they ash when you try to add Mischief of the Time Goddess, that's going to basically end your deck. Moving on to the extra deck. Like I said, the extra deck for the most part just doesn't really matter that much. I do run the 1 Lina since all the monsters are light. Also run IP Masquerena, Phoenix, Unicorn, and of course Access Toad to help close the games out. I also run Apollosa. You definitely want to run, I'd say, these 6. Outside of these 6, it does not really matter for the most part because you're not really going to go into much else. Also run Zeraboros and Skuldred. Just other good level 4s that may come up, but very, very rare. Also run the 1 Assembled Nightingale, the 1 Downer Magician. We can make level 4, so I run Abyssal, which is good against tier, Baguska, in case we're that desperate, and sometimes Cowboy may be a good option. If anything, like let's say through the 2 battle phases you get with the Mistress of Time Goddess, let's say that's not enough. If you can make a Cowboy, that may be enough for game. So in this deck, you can Cowboy for game. Also run the 1 Phantom Fortress, however that's pronounced. We are able to make rank 9s in this deck. Are we likely to go into rank 9? No, but if you go into rank 9, Phantom Fortress is probably the best card to go into. Because you can either banish one card your opponent controls, banish 1 random card from your opponent's hand, or banish 1 card from your opponent's graveyard. Now, that last effect could be very good if you combine it with, like, obviously the Urda Urst to kind of mitigate the effect of Final Light. And I'll also run the 1 Zeus. That's going to be it for my Valkyrie deck profile. What do you think of Valkyries? Think it's a pretty cool, fun deck? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you in the next video I make. Bye.